Welcome to Take on Knowing Media, where we explore the esoteric, hidden, obscured, and sometimes misunderstood with a view always to raise the human collective consciousness. I'm your host, Renata Duma. In this case, we're going to explore a possible solution to what in fact has been obscured and hidden in plain sight, namely the gross manipulation and intended eradication of 80% of our global population by those known as the elite. I have very different adjectives for them, as there's absolutely nothing elite about them in my books, but I'll refrain from using them on the air for now. For anyone new to these concepts, in short, the plan of the elite psychopaths, well, there, I said it, was to slowly alleviate humanity of its finances, freedom, and what's left of our health, and initiate a great reset where we all, and I quote them, have nothing and be happy eating crickets. This, for the large part, has been quashed, yet no one save some well-hidden military factions knows where we're at today, September the 8th, 2022, and how this whole takedown will end up going down. What we do know, however, hence take on knowing, as knowledge is helpful, but knowing is innate, that we are sovereign beings that have forgotten, rather been hypnotized and programmed over centuries of time to believe that we are not. This leads me to my guest today, Lee Mudway, one of the visionaries and founding speakers for GPMS.WORLD, which is, as described by Rick Jewers, his co-founding visionary and speaker, the vehicle by which to collect the voice or votes of the people worldwide to create and distribute money in a way that is a good tool for all of humanity, thereby change the ways of the world. From what I understand, GPMS, which stands for Global People's Monetary System, has to date gathered tens of thousands of voices already in a period of about 18 months since their inception. And it's on a mission to gather the voices of the rest of the Earth's population as they awaken from their hypnotic slumber to their sovereignty and power in numbers to reclaim and reestablish themselves as the speakers for themselves, no longer enslaved by malevolent oligarchs or elite psychopaths, as mentioned earlier. Lee, welcome to Take on Knowing Media. Have I got that essentially right so far?
That was awesome, Renata. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And yes, perfect. Let's see where we go from here.
Let's see. Well, we're just going to wing it from here on, and I hope we have a fascinating, illuminating, and helpful discussion for all those who will watch this interview in the future. So I described GPMS using your brother in arms, so to speak, Rick's words. Can you give us your rendition of this complex vehicle, and we'll get the aspects of how you see it unfolding in the near future? Over to you.
It's always interesting to give a simple overview of something that is relatively deep. But to make it very, very easy, Global People's Monetary System, GPMS, is a worldwide referendum for every man, woman, and child to have their say and create a voice of change, which is fully inclusive. The instrument itself is an outline instrument. It just literally works on the basis, I suppose the easiest way to look at it is a shareholder vote. Everybody on the planet, every soul on the planet is by divine birthright, is a shareholder to everything on the planet. So effectively, everything on the planet is owned by the people. Most people know this, even though that said ownership may be in different stocks and shares, but that's a manipulation. So as the people join together and create their own, or put their voice together, voice to change, just by making a vote, then we have a shareholders meeting and we redesign what was. We take back the financial routing systems, we take guardianship of them. The government systems, which, let's be fair, are not looking after us in any way, shape or form. And I'll be kind at the moment with my words, at least for now. The media, which is another one, social media, which is another government propaganda arm, as well as all the rest of the things. And we can talk about this a little bit more. But all of these things are designed and being used to manipulate and depress humanity in general. As you said earlier, there's a large amount that was supposed to be genocided, for want of a better word. And that won't happen. But what is happening is that there's a wake-up call going on. So what GPMS does is says to everybody, listen, the situation is untenable. Everywhere you look, there is lies, manipulation, malevolence, and to a certain degree, evil. What can we do about it? Well, the simple thing is to put everybody's voice together, man, woman, and child, and say we would like to change. So this is where GPMS, the instrument, comes in, and it simply states that everybody is, by divine birthright, the value. We are the value, not the monetary systems and not the other things that they put out there for us, not the gold and the shiny stuff, which in general they own and they create the value of. The value is within. So GPMS recognizes this and says, you know, this word sovereignty, which a lot of people have already come across, but this is real. Everybody is born sovereign. Sovereign means above authority. So the only authority you have is inner authority, your own. There is no external authority. This is what GPMS stipulates. You are your own authority. You pay yourself. You are your own worth. Do you want that? Do you want unlimited wealth for yourself and never have to worry about it again? The same with your children and their children's children and children and children and children, because whilst the system is being maintained by malevolent oligarchs, tyrants, and much, much worse, it's never going to be used for you. But if we take guardianship of the system en masse, then we can use it for everybody equally. This doesn't just stop with the monetary system with GPMS, it also goes into the law structures. Again, we've got a lot of obfuscation of truth on this plane about what the laws are and what we can go to and what we're allowed to go to, which is ridiculous what we're allowed to go to, but nevertheless. So GPMS literally just takes the existing system and says it's not fit for purpose. We can see that. Those that are running around maybe looking for constitutional redress must realize that the Constitution was subverted by legality. So the Constitution was at best flawed, at worst manipulable. So these ideas of going back to something just do not work, because they were all subverted into something that is not fit for purpose. There is one simple law, which is natural law, which is, you know, people call it divine law, God's law, natural law. Again, so many different perspectives on the same thing. But most of humanity will realize that do no harm is quite a simple rule. And, you know, and again, what I've said to people is when you go around to your neighbor's house, you don't need a list of rules as to how to behave. So why do we need them when we drive down the street and these sort of ideas? Again, we can all get to this simple answer. So where the old system is very, very complex, has been made that way on purpose. GPMS is very, very simple. To counter the complexity, we do not need to unpick the legal structures. We do not need to unpick the governmental structures, the bureaucratic structures, the technocratic structures, or the corporate structures. I can't even say that one. Corporatocracy. So we don't need to unpick all of these. We can just realize that they are not in anybody's interest and re-envision them simply through an instrument of GPMS, which says, do you want to do that? And if you do, then the people need to choose it, or will choose it, just by adding your consent. And once we get to a certain number of people, then we have the weight, the majority rule, the energetic value. There's so many different ways, again, of looking at this, whereby legally, technically, and lawfully, and divinely, the people rise up by their shoestrings, however you want to see it. The people stand up, and all of these systems start to work for everybody, and all of this stops. GPMS in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for that. Now, I have questions, and I'm just fascinated to find out how you'll respond to them. So, You mentioned divine law, natural law, do no harm. This is, that's the innate understanding of how humans interact with one another on this planet. In for most of the in most of the systems in North America, anyway, we have admiral law, right, which is innately structured in order to control, manipulate, dominate, and have power over. So, for example, if you say to a police officer that is arresting you, if he asks you, do you understand? And you say, yes, you're actually saying, I stand under. I understand from the alt media that the UK has switched back to common law. I don't know if that's true or not. So my question is, how do we resolve this situation with the admiral law if it's still in effect in many countries in the world versus the common law, and how do we move it towards the natural law? How do you see that growing into that reality?
Okay, beautiful question. But it does touch on quite a few different things as a sort of grounding or background information on why and where it came from and these sort of ideas. I'm not going to talk too much to his story. I'm sure you know what I mean by his story, because, again, so much of that is fake. So let's look at Admiralty law and maritime law, and let's just call it corporate structures, corporate laws, corporate rules for shipping and maritime trade.
Right.
And then we can look at that as, why is that on the land? Well, it's piracy. It's nothing more than piracy. It's legalized piracy. In Admiralty and maritime law are legalized piracies for governments to make money. Why would governments want to make money? Well, when we look at what corporate law is, Admiralty law is, it was designed to be able to do trade, trade with others. The whole system, everything that we've got on this plane right now is corporate. Everything is based on profit and loss. Everything is owned by a corporation and ran by a corporation, which are owned by bigger corporations on top of those, and most of these are hidden. The stock market is owned by one company, which is owned by another company, which is owned by, The governments all around the planet are just corporate entities at profit from the people. So they need their legalities. They need their rules and their Admiralty laws to be able to profit, and I mean profit by piracy, off the people on the land. And how do they do it? They simply tell the people on the land that they're corporations, but they don't give them that information. They give them surnames, they give them birth certificates and all of these ideas, which create dead fictions or dead entities on the land. And the people walk around thinking that everything's gravy and not realizing that the government is there to charge them for what's the word, trading in their jurisdiction. So all the taxes and all the rest of these things and all the legalities is legalized piracy, because you are trading underneath another corporation, which is your government. Could it UK PLC, Great Britain PLC, Canada PLC, doesn't matter. And all of these then charge all of the people to trade in that country underneath the trading rules, which is the Admiralty law. Common law, it doesn't exist anymore. People that say it does, we've moved to common law. What does that mean? Show me one individual that can move around freely around this planet without a passport. Or show me one individual that can say, no, I don't need to pay taxes. So this idea of common law and a common man and a sovereign individuals or common woman, it doesn't exist. Governments do not recognize it. The law structures do not recognize it. There is no such thing as law. There is only legality, and it's different guises. So these ideas of what do we do about them? Well, we don't, because they are not fit for purpose. They are a corporate idea. They are a corporate identity. We don't need them, and we won't use them. So they're gone. All legality gone. And we put back in law. There's so many people out there that know a lot about natural law, a lot about transition to natural law. In the ideas of many, this will become a lawless society. Well, it's lawless now. And this is the inversion. We think there's law, but there's not. Putting law back in will actually help. So once we can recognize the other thing about, the ideas of debt, there is no such thing as debt. Debt is a fictional character that was been created by the banks. Again, the same rules. Who owes who what? They print the money. From where?
Yeah, we're actually born into debt, right? We're born into debt.
Well, we're not. We're born into credit. The inversion is the other way around. We're born as beneficiaries of everything we need until we sign the birth certificate, or the parents do, and then we're the debtors, right? So every divine soul that's born on this planet is the beneficiary to everything they will ever need. If they were told that, then life might be a bit different. They're not told that. In fact, they're told quite the opposite. So they're told they're born into debt, which is perfect, because now it means that by embracing that debt, they've agreed that you are a shareholder to that country's infrastructure. Cool. So they've, again, they're criminalizing themselves all over the place, but they just create more legalities to make it harder for these things to come to justice. There will be no justice until the people stand up and take back their rights. So I don't know if that answered that or Renata or not. We went roundabouts a little bit, but the legal structure and the common law structures are not humane. They are not civilized. They are loopable and manipulable, and they will not go forward, because nothing that isn't based on truth and transparency goes forward. So I would say to anybody that's trying to push against a government or a legal system to get what they're owed back, to really have a think about it. That system's never going to give you what you think you're owed back, and it's not what you're owed. They created what they've got. Let them have it. GPMS lets you create everything you will ever need, ever. They can have what they had.
Yes. Yeah, true. So you said here's the conundrum where we find ourselves now as we transition from an old way to a new way. And I hate that duality kind of, but that's all we've got in 3D, right? So you said we won't have justice, but how can we have justice if we don't adhere to a legal system? So it's not justice, right? We can't use the word justice if we're not following a legal system. So it has to be a new word. It's like preparation
balance.
or balance. Yeah, exactly. So that leads me to infrastructure. How do you see the infrastructure moving forward? I mean, yes, it's absolutely, as you said, go in a good way. I mean, Chief Dr. Ikwa Mission, who is going to be very soon part of this beautiful organization of yours. I've learned so much from her, and it's pretty simple. Go in a good way, and if you don't, then they talk to you, and then if you continue to not go in a good way and do harm to others, then you're asked to live outside of the community. And it's pretty simple. So the question is, how do we remind people that it really is that simple, number one? And how do we deal with the people that abuse that going forward? Because there will be people that will abuse it, unfortunately, until they get it. So so number one, the infrastructure. How do you see it unfolding in terms of a global undertaking? And then again, the instillment of this simplistic overview of how we deal with one another, and what do we do about those that are not able to grasp that in the near future?
Okay, let's again with the infrastructure. Let's start with that one. Let's just look at a perspective again with GPMS. Because of what it is, we can only give perspective. I certainly wouldn't define, because then that limits what can be. There are some what I call divine variables in this, which we need to be aware of. at this time too. So the infrastructure and how this transitions is very, very straightforward. For instance, the financial routing system, the government structures, the what's already there. We just reutilize it. So effectively, if you put 10, let's say, high consciousness individuals into a government building, and let's rename that government building into an administration building, you remove the bureaucracy out the back of it, and you take away the regulations and these sort of ideas and let people be. You give them full funding for everything. How difficult would it be for a swift change in that country, whereby things just progress forwards? Once you release those shackles and that oppression, all of the infrastructure that we need on the planet is here right now for this. And that's not even assuming the suppressed technologies will be released. Presuming they will be, right? So we've got a lot of, let's say, suppressed technology or higher technology, which is available very, very shortly. But again, the people need to choose it. This isn't a savior mechanism. It seems very, very prudent to point out that savior mechanisms and savior desires will not work. They are not of the highest. Yeah. So those that are waiting or holding out for somebody to do things for them, no, you maybe need to rethink that one and just do a little bit for yourself. So the infrastructure of moving this forward is different in different cultures and different societies. It's also different in the way that individuals or cultures would handle those that may be deemed awkward. And again, GPMS does not look to police the people. We do this. This is a release mechanism whereby then we all walk into this new world and we do what we do. You know, humanity in general are in their hearts. Humanity in general are loving. Give them a chance, they would be. I've seen many, many situations whereby people are oppressed and you release the oppression and all of a sudden they're loving. You know, again, drop 100 people on an island and what are they going to do? Is what, 10 of them going to start to, no, they work together. We start to work together. And people may think this is a utopian idea. I would ask them to look into their hearts and really ask themselves what they would do. Forget what they see on television and forget what they see around the world and what the media is telling them. So all of these ones that may be awkward or try for something new, what I would simply say is this: when GPMS comes to inception, not if, the unlimited value is placed within the individual, everyone. This is man, woman, and child. There is nothing to gain by going against or trying to steal, because everybody's got everything they need in the old world. There is no way you can get a leg up on another because everybody's got equal amount of whatever it is they need in different ways that they do it. So these old ideas of manipulation and steal and whatever it is that these people had don't exist because the environment doesn't exist for that to be in anymore. There's no need. They've got everything they want. Then we can add on what's actually happening right now, and that's an increase in frequency. So some may know about what's occurring. Some may know that there's a lifting of the frequency of the planet. And some may not. But all you've got to see is look outside and you'll see that there's a lot of lies and a lot of untruth and a lot of shady dealings going on in front of you that weren't before. They were all being in the back. Everything was being done undercover. Now it's very, very, very much in your face. Why is that? Is it coming to the surface so you can see it? These sort of concepts, again, just speaking to a certain level. But so we know that there's a lift, a raising in frequency, and that raising frequency removes, let's say removes the areas of frequency within this plane that blame, shame, guilt, anger, and all of these ideas reside in. So what was used against us in these areas, in this density and in this, let's say, frequency, holding down on the frequency, was to keep people in those frequencies of blame, shame, guilt, where they're very much timid and they're very much in their bubbles and they're very much in fear. This won't be the case once humanity sees what's going on and lifts themselves out of this. So again, the idea that those carrying those frequencies that might be awkward in this new society, they don't exist anymore. So I would say to those that are looking to the past and saying, well, this is what happened then, and this, we've seen a lot of this happen, and projecting that into the future, maybe not to. Maybe to have a real think about, there's, what is it, 6 billion plus humans on this planet, and what we're talking to is maybe a couple thousand, and that leaves 5.99989 billion humans that will benefit, and a couple of thousand that might be awkward. Well, I think we can deal with those in a reasonable way that doesn't require us to put everything on hold for the other 6 billion, whilst we think about, well, what we're going to do about them. So these sort of concepts become quite smaller, right? But nevertheless, very, 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 very valid. Like, well, who's going to collect the rubbish? Who's going to do this, that, and the other? Well, can we agree that there's a bigger concept here? Exactly. And maybe we'll worry about that.
Exactly. Well, I think, Lee, there's a few things happening concurrently. I think there are a lot of strata of things that are happening in our planet right now. There is a great awakening going on. Absolutely. There is a toppling of the media. There's a toppling of the governments. There is a toppling of the royalty, of the monarchy. There is also at the same time a plan, so we understand, from the American military to assist in taking us into what's called Jizara and Nasara. If any of our viewers aren't familiar with that, I know you're going to talk about that. Currently, there is a stream of consciousness within the individuals such as yourself that are possibly not buying into this duality structure that just keeps you on this hamster wheel of, again, being subservient to another system. So it's like, okay, well, you can't replace a kitchen until you take the first one out and you put it in but do you want another kitchen, or do you want something different like that? So, and then the other layer of that is the planetary ascension. And yes, the energies are like rising. Whatever is evil is going to be exposed. And there has been so much evil here that it is beyond most people's comprehension. I've been seeing this. I've been allowing this to unfold in my being for about 3 years. And there were many months and many nights I went to bed crying, knowing what was actually going on here. So there are a lot of different layers of what's going on. And I sort of see, from my perspective, GPMS as that innate calling to once again return to what is natural, what is decent, what is about community and unity consciousness. And yeah, it's going to be rough for a little while, but I really see that, and it's going to be tough to see how everything plays out because there are so many different things happening concurrently. So my question in a roundabout way, Jizara and Nasara, what happens if this actually comes true? Are you in opposition to Jizara and Nasara, or is it something that you would work with or gently guide people through and then out the other door? And my last question is, what happens to the name GPMS when it's not a monetary system anymore?
I love this, right? Because GPMS by design is transient. So again, with this idea, this concept, there's no leaders and there's no overall authority, overarching authority with GPMS because it's the people's. Right. So the name itself, the nomenclature, even GPMS will be up for debate, and whatever currency the people choose is their people's choice. So we're not defining any of this. So now I'm quite happy for GPMS to be released when the people choose to release the financial systems and all the other things. But this is later. Right. The Jizara and Nasara white hat militaries. Yeah. And how does that look? Well, let's have a quick look at what they are. We've been let's say like you said, you've been researching for 3 years, and the first thing that falls into our laps generally is Jizara and Nasara. All the talking heads on the truther channels, Jizara and Nasara. And we've been told that 209 governments have signed to Jizara and Nasara. Well, let's look at the word government, or really control mind, because that's what to govern is to control, and mente is mind, right? So we've got these ideas of government which we think are ours, and we vote these people in. Well, as I've already discussed a little bit earlier, they're not. They're corporate boards of directors. They're not governments. They're not administrations for the people. They are fronts, pseudo fronts for businesses and bureaucracy and technocrats behind that, malevolence, to do what they want to do with no recourse. So these ideas of keeping government is craziness. But Jizara and Nasara says, yes, all the 209 governments have signed up for this. Well, that was 3 years ago. What have we suffered since? Where's Jizara and Nasara? Where are they? Is it getting better outside, or is it getting harder outside? But all of these governments, we're going to get it soon. Wait, trust the plan. What plan? This is everywhere over alternate media is Jizara and Nasara. Why? If we try and put GPMS all over, we can't get that out there. But yet certain themes are seen to be prevalent across and talked about across and not banned off YouTube, and other themes aren't. Mm-hmm. So I'd really ask people to have a think about what it is that this plan is and these militaries are doing for the people, as they can't afford their fuel and they can't afford to eat and they can't afford these other things. But it's okay, just wait a little bit longer, and this idea is going to come where we're going to give you millions through the banking system, which is already screwing you, and the government system, which is already screwing you, as long as you probably have some boosters. These ideas are all kind of, I sound a little bit like down on it. I am. When did it come in? 1952. I believe Jizara and Nasara may have been a good idea if it had come in the 70s or the 80s, mm-hmm. to get us to the stage now where people would choose GPMS. But because it didn't, it is now defunct. It is an old hashed, controlled opposition narrative that will loop back because it keeps all of the control in the same players' hands as they have now. All it does is quietens the people down until they loop it back again. Jizara and Nasara will not come in because there will be no government and financial structures left once the people realize what's gone on. The only way those two can actually happen is if a certain amount of fraud and deception, the boot on the neck of the public, is kept there so that they do not learn what the truth is. Now, I know as well as you do, far too many out there know how, to a certain degree, what the depths of the truths are. The only way Jizara and Nasara work is if that doesn't get out. And I believe that there may have been something that people were sticking in their arms that might make them wake up anyway. So again, along these routes, there's so much going on and so many different narratives that when you've got this carrot on a stick of Jizara's coming, Jizara's coming, Jizara's coming, and how many dates have we seen when it's going to happen? And all of these ideas. So I'm not worried about those two, and I don't think they're going to actually come into play, because what's going to be left of every country when the people realize what the country's done to them? And again, I'm not calling for violence, but there will be chaos, and I look forward to chaos, because chaos simply is not following the prescribed set of rules. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, we're not going to follow the prescribed set of rules, and that will be chaos for you, but not for us. So these sort of ideas and these concepts move forward very rapidly once, what do they call it? SHTF. Is that what it is? Shit hits the fan. You know what I mean.
My channel, that's fine. That's just fine with me.
What you were saying about the uplift and the other stuff going on as well, and all of these different narratives is absolutely true. And it's speaking to different perspectives here.
Yep.
And I'm trying to give a coverall rather than putting it too high or too low. So it's always difficult to grab all of the levels of timelines and experience, yep, into one. But hopefully we're getting somewhere close without going too high.
I trust you are question then, so how do you see disclosure taking place through GPMS? Because there's going to have to be disclosure.
It won't be through GPMS. The GPMS instrument itself won't give disclosure about what was. It's not its job.
Mm-hmm.
GPMS itself, the Global People's Monetary System, is a divinely given plan
Mm-hmm.
that does not need to explain itself or why it's needed. So it won't give disclosure. We've said this before, you know, should we have areas where we can put information out about what is? No, because who's going to choose and pick and disseminate that information? It's got to be all inclusive or nothing. So it's like a newborn baby trying to explain why it's been born. No, it doesn't need to. We have to realize it. So disclosure about what? This is what the people give to each other. We divest the information or divulge the information to our brothers and sisters. We realize GPMS, it doesn't explain itself in that aspect. So why it's there, why it's needed, well, that's up to us. It's, you know, it doesn't need to be needed, but without us, without the people's voice, without the energetic consent, it doesn't do anything. But when it gets the energetic consent, the people, then everything changes.
Right.
So at the moment, it's an outline instrument, but it doesn't give disclosure. It gives the guardianship of everything back to the people. And that's why it's needed.
It certainly is. Now, the other concept is we spoke about you spoke about putting conscious individuals into, let's say, government institutions and creating a new administration. And you know, we hate all of those words, and I wish it was like turnips and apples and peaches and fluffy kittens, right? So just, you know, maybe we need gematria to rename, you know, certain things to give them a higher vibe. So question for these conscious beings, these conscious speakers, as Chief likes to call those
leaders. Yeah,
not leaders.
No.
Not leaders, bad word. So is there a roadmap for them? Is there something that or is it really something that everyone's just going to kind of get? Because I'm just kind of feeling like this Great Awakening is really about each individual awakening. It's not about a political movement. And just to go back quickly, I think Jizara and Nasara, it's not about the finances. I think what they're trying to do is stop war and control if the global financial system is tied into Starlink, and if they've signed on to Starlink, then they have also agreed to not war. And if they do war, then their entire systems are shut down. So I'm kind of thinking maybe, and I'm just bear with me here, maybe, because anything's possible, because we know nothing. We really do know nothing, right? So maybe in a way, through Jizara and Nasara, they're actually trying to move us into a golden age where there is no money also.
Yes. I didn't say it was negative. I didn't say it was malevolent.
Okay.
I just said it's not going to happen. I believe that everything that's waking people up and sending them down whatever path is perfect.
Yeah.
And so Jizara and Nizara, and however they may look at Starlink and whether Starlink's necessary, but all of these ideas are out of the old.
Right.
Okay. And they are not out of new thinking. They're out of old corporate ways where economics, commerce, and all of this depravity and savage debauchery still is maintained, but a little bit less. Mm-hmm. So all of these things, again, but I see them as beneficial, and they are moving people forwards to a newer type of thinking. My only comment with it is don't put all your eggs into Jizara and Nizara. Maybe have a little foot in GPMS and just say, have a little look. Yeah. It wouldn't hurt to consent and vote for a different system rather than the one the old systems promised you. Purely that. So again, with the Starlink idea and this Musk idea and all of the ideas with regards to the quantum financial systems, it's all pie in the sky. It's all carrots on sticks. But what it does do is opens up and expands the thinking. As long as you don't get trapped in it, as long as you don't think that's the only way. So I think they're all beneficial.
Yeah, well, it's just another method of, as long as we're in duality and we're not coming from our hearts, then we're still fighting a system. And by the way, I saw Starlink about a month ago.
Did you? Yeah, I saw them when it went up a couple of years.
It's on my phone. I have pictures, a lot of other pictures of things happening up there too, but we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, no, I saw it, and it is pretty.
Well, I'll give you one thing on Starlink, and I'll lift this up slightly into another part of the work that we do. There was a time not so long ago where we kind of considered that Starlink would be utilitarian and useful.
Okay.
Until a geomagnetic storm knocked 6 of them out the air. And then it became fairly obvious they weren't. So.
But was it a geomagnetic storm? I heard that they were taken out.
It doesn't matter. They were removed. So they're not what they, if they were divine and they were needed and they were necessary and all of these ideas, they would still be there. They're not. So we can look at it whatever way you will. Again, with all of these things, we don't know 100%, but with the other stuff that we do, Rick and I and many, many others around the planet, there's 4.2 million ascended masters on the planet, Christed ones, however you want to call them. And we're all doing different bits, and we all got different access to different information that may not be relatively accessible to all. And a lot of it may be hard to believe, but it's unquestionable. When you're involved with it, it's unquestionable, right? But so this bigger concept of what will be is, for one, at a higher level, it's kind of mute because this is already done.
Yeah.
GPMS is already in place energetically. It's just not manifested yet. So what we're talking to about Jizara, Nasara, and Starlink, it doesn't matter, because if they are used, they're used within GPMS, for GPMS, by the people, not by militaries and not by governments, and not imposed upon us. No military can act on this planet, and no government can act on this planet without popular consent, the people's consent. So without the energetic value or the energetic consent of the people, nobody can do anything. This is why GPMS can't create money and funds out of thin air.
Right.
So all of the old systems that weren't running on consent, or will not be running on consent very shortly, as the people start to release their consent, non-compliance, can't do this, can't do that, they all fail, they all fade, and they all disappear, because now they've got no energy behind them. There's lots of this.
So you just said it yourself, we can't manufacture money. So how do you see? You're talking to a girl that has a tough time balancing her checkbook. Okay.
We can manufacture money, but we can't do it without the people choosing to.
I've always innately detested money.
Yes.
It's just something that never made sense to me. That's why I guess I went to university for 7 years to become a musician, because music made sense to me. Energy made sense to me. Money never made sense to me.
No.
Absolutely. It's fictitious.
It is.
Anyway, so I'm sorry, it's my little rant du jour. How do you see that part unfolding? Please explain it to the tiny monetary mind in my brain.
Let's make it really, really simple. And again, perspective. This is only perspective, because I'm not defining what can be. There are many, many technical experts out there, and there's higher technologies out there that can come in and change things. But let's just make it simple. What's the easiest way? And I love Occam's razor, so I go back to the simplest all the time.
Right.
What will the people choose when the people know that they are not going to get screwed over by the system again?
Right.
Will they choose independent currencies, cash, coins, and bits and pieces to exchange all around the world differently? Or can we think that there may be a time where the people realize, once all of this is crashed and burned, if you want, that it would be easier to have one. Again, this is not me saying there's going to be one currency, you won't own anything, but I'm just asking the question, and this is the simplest answer for me. It would make sense for a digital currency around the world. The people choose it because it's ours. Again, I'm not talking to, it sounds very much like the globalistic agenda, but this is the opposite. Because how would you prefer to pay yourself? Do you want to carry cash around and exchange these medias, or just a card and never have to worry about have you got enough money because your card is always full of what it is you need? What's the easiest? So it seems to me that would probably be the way it would be for me. My way would be that sort of thinking. Everybody has an account across the planet. You know, we've already all got accounts. We're already used to this idea. So to transition from one system of lacking into a system of complete abundance, it wouldn't be a leap of faith to just keep everybody's accounts and just add money to them. So everything you've already got, you keep. The GPMS doesn't take anything off anybody. What it simply does is brings up every currency around the planet to a par dollar, a dollar value.
Okay, got it.
And then transfers that into whatever the people's currency is.
I love that.
And then all we do is we run a program. We unlock all the encryption gates and all of the systems that they've got in place because they're not necessary. And we run a program which deposits $20,000 up front into every man, woman, and child's account, and then 10,000 per month. Into every man, woman, and child's account. So that's the initial factor. This is the control mechanism in GPMS, where we don't give billions out straight away. We give a comfortable income to, we choose to, all of us choose to give a comfortable income, 20,000 to every man, woman, and child, and then 10,000 per month. And all that does then is allows people to transition through. I've been asked, what would GPMS look like the next day? And you'd wake up in the morning and nothing would change. Most people would do what they're doing if it happened tomorrow, right? I'm not going to say what chaos may ensue in the meantime, but if it happened tomorrow, all what happened is you get guaranteed, because it's your money, you're paying yourself. It's not somebody else paying you. So you put in what we're saying between 20 hours a month work. And for that 20 hours work, and I don't even like the word work, you do something you enjoy, which helps your
contribution
community or global, it doesn't matter, whatever you want. And most people would do a lot more than 10-20 hours a month, you know, because they get bored. But that's what we're saying, 10-20 hours a month, and you unlock the money for next month. You unlock it out of you. Right. So you pay yourself then for next month because you've done 10-20 hours this. Where's the workforce? Well, what jobs don't we need on the planet? Do we need the financial industry, which employs about 1.4 billion people around the planet? 1.4 billion people employed in accountants, economics, commerce. What? Why? Complexity and make everything awkward. Do we need all those? No, they're instantly gone because now we haven't got any accounting. So you don't need to balance your books. Right. There's nothing, these ideas all gone. So what do those 1.4 billion do? They become part of the general workforce, or they're looking for something to do, right? So these, again, how many superfluous jobs have we got? Technocratic jobs, bureaucratic jobs that have been created for jobs for the boys, jobs to keep people busy, jobs to keep the hamsters on the wheels. How much suppressed technology have we got that would release those jobs?
And what I would like to personally see the end of is this probably MK Ultra manipulation of what status in society is, and wanting the bigger car and the bigger house and the this and the that and the this and the that. And it's like I was watching Mark Atwood the other day, and he said he went into a school and he asked the kids to write down on a piece of paper, so okay, what do you want to do when you grow up? And hang
on, Mark might have heard this off me, because I gave this speech about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I was speaking with a friend of mine, a divine brother, and he went in and he did a thing called World of Work. And he told me that he went into a school and asked them what they wanted to be, and then said, if I give you a load of money, then what would you want to be? Exactly. and they became human. This was something I shared about 3 weeks ago on an interview. So it wasn't necessarily Mark, but no, that was from a conversation I had about a month ago, and it was shared in an interview. So at least Mark's listening or watching. So hello, Mark, if you are.
Yes, hello, Mark. You will be.
So yeah, that was something that it was experiential for me, and it was an information from a guy in the UK that I had a conversation with about a month ago. That's where that came from.
Well, isn't it interesting that I was intuitively guided to bring that up?
Isn't it perfect? Hey, what is it? Degrees of separation, or
right? That's right.
Now these ideas. I mean, just to enlarge on that story, the children wanted to be this, that, and the other, rock stars, and all of these things for celebrity. And when the guy said, "If I give you 20 billion each, then what would you be?" "I want to clean the sea, a veterinarian, a nurse, help people, da 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 da." And he literally said, the children became human when you took the pressure of money off them.
Yes. Yeah.
This whole thing changes ever so quickly, but in the adult indoctrinated population, and we're all indoctrinated, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, or were indoctrinated, we've got this idea that there's a long change and it's difficult. Mm-hmm. And we've got to do a lot. Everybody's got to learn. Everyone's got to be this, that, and the other. We can't. If you release the pressure, we change. The ability for the human condition to adapt is incredible. Look at the pressure it's withstanding now, and the resilience at which it's withstanding this oppression. Release that spring, and we can't see it doing the other thing the other way, the same speed, with the same gusto as we're all, these ideas. So it's,
yeah, I really feel that's the crux of it, isn't it, Lee? That's really the crux of it, right? Give people back their freedom in an environment where they can flourish and be creative and help one another. And I think one thing that I didn't say earlier, humanity, yes, humans are beautiful creatures. There's been so much interference with humanity. They do not behave in a way sometimes where they are those beautiful creatures, because they are so interfered with. The energy work that I do is about helping people remove those interferences and blockages and all of those programs and all of those things, so that they can once again become their divine, authentic selves. So, and taking it to the next level, you also talked about abundance. So what my wish is, and I think it's aligned with GPMS, it's basically a galactic view that what is abundance? Abundance is having that which you need in every moment to do that which you need to do. It's that
simple. Yeah. It's that simple. And this is what's missed. People think abundance is having enough for the future. No.
There is no future. There is no
past.
No. There's only the now and the next now and the next now.
This is where the mind stuff has gone on. But again, perspective wise, we're not here to educate and lift people. We're here to guide, but it's not to say that anybody's in the wrong place or doing the wrong thing. It's just to recognize where they are and what they're doing, and nevertheless change the environment in which that's carried out in, and let that flourish, let that thrive, let the people grow in their own environment. But what really needs to happen is the people need to choose the environment. It's not something that's going to be done. You can't go begging the government to give you back your rights. You need to know what your rights are and stand in them a little bit. Mm-hmm. Not fully. You haven't got, again, there's none of this, everybody's got to learn to be sovereign before you can be free. It's not true.
Right.
It's not true. What we can do is change the environment, and agree to change the environment, and agree to the foundation of what that environment looks like. It must have truth and transparency as its basis. It must have integrity. This is where we're going. So integrity is where it starts. If it hasn't got that, and it isn't truth and transparent, it will not go forward. Right. It must be equal to a degree. There's no hierarchy in this where you've got leaders and these ideas of authoritarians. There's no authority. There's the inner authority, and there's roles and positions that people do. They take roles and positions because they're good at it. not because they can dominate or control, but because they're not that, exactly the opposite of that. They're benevolent and giving. People won't be earning a lot of money by being in a position of power. There will be no such thing. There will be positions that are revered. There will be positions that are respected, but they won't be powerful in the old terminology. They will be powerful in the energy that they carry nowadays by the people saying, thank you for doing that for us. Not, can we have this back? No, everything is yours.
So what are those, 3 out of 5 psychopaths people gonna do? I feel sorry for the psychopaths.
Well,
have the hardest time. I was like, oh, guess what? Oh.
It's going to be interesting, right? It's going to be interesting.
Oh, it will be. Oh, that for sure. I see that we've been going for quite some time now, but I have 2 more questions. I know we just touched on it briefly in one of the meetings where I was honored to be part of with you and with Rick and Kyle and Chief and some of your other brothers and sisters in arms. And you mentioned something about waiting for the divine feminine.
Yeah. Okay, that came sideways at me. Okay.
And I just, there's a lovely person by the name of James Gilliland who owns Iseti Ranch, and I'm sure you know about that. And I've been there, right? And I've spoken with James, and his answer to everything is, I would just turn it all over to a council of grandmothers and let them sort it out, because the grandmothers aren't going to do anything to hurt the children or the people, right? So over to you on that one.
I think this is one of the most beautiful things. I mean, I'm not going to talk personally. I think divine feminine personally or GPM now. Let's go GPMS.
GPMS for now.
Let's leave it at that. Yeah. GPMS, there's this, again, it's just my perspective. The beautiful thing is that there's this masculine, feminine energies and they can balance, right? There's no reason for them not to be. We don't need to be at war. No. But the feminine wanting the love and the masculine saying, this is how we'll do it, putting the but nuts together. We want this, and this is how we're going to do it. I want this, and this is how we're going to do it. And this is the way I see it working, the aspect of growth, and then the pulling it back together, right? Nuts and bolts. Yes, we can do that. So the masculine at the moment, for me, even though we've got some beautiful divine feminine involved with GPMS, we need more. We need the feminine love aspect into GPMS. There's 4.5 million on the planet of higher divine ones, and that's not all masculine and all feminine. Where are they? Where are we, guys, coming together for something that we're all here to do? And that involves the loving aspect and the nurturing aspect of that feminine presence, which I would say to a certain degree we've been lacking with this. I'll open up and be honest about it. We've got it to where it's got to. But now it's the time for us to unite, and this is both sexes and stand in those powers and their roles inside of this. Like you say, the grandmothers would never do anything to harm the children, right? And they certainly wouldn't let the men do anything to, these ideas. So where are they? But so when we get this congruence, this alignment, when we get 50 to 100 to 2,000 to 5,000 of these divine ones together, the energetic impact of that upon the collective experience is the flashpoint. This is where we are, and this is why there is a call. I can sit here all day long and tell you about GPMS, but there's other ones that may look a little bit prettier than me that can reach a different audience. and the same with the website and with the way we deliver this. Right. It's not one. This isn't about one. It isn't about the masculine. It isn't about the feminine. It's about a balance and a unity.
Exactly. Which leads me to my last question, or just something to talk about. And then my last question. I know that there's a possibility that as you move forward, there will be the possibility for, let's say, groups to sign on so people feel like they have a clan or kind of a family or whatever. And I know there'll be a bit of a technical issue with it, but people can sign up. If you want to just go over that, they can sign up on their own. They can sign up eventually as this unfolds. They will be able to sign up, let's say, within a nation, an indigenous nation, or within within another kind of group, so that they have their own. If they've already have a community established, then it's nicer to move forward as with popular consensus, as well as with divine sovereign consensus. So, final question. Tell us about that, and then please share with us where people can go. Of course, I'm going to put it on the screen as the interview airs. So please give us the coordinates, how people can contact you, how they can assist you, how they can sign up, and shout out to all my divine sisters out there. Hey, they need the help.
We do. And it's not, GPMS is not ours. It's not Lee and Rick or Emily and Yolanda. It's all of us. So I'd much prefer it if we need help, not they, because it's anybody that's on board with GPMS, it's yours. Yeah. It's not ours. We're just taking it for these steps, and then others will, these ideas. What was the first one? I've forgotten what you said at the beginning of that.
Okay, now I forgot.
it wasn't what did it look like. It wasn't how the groups. Okay.
Groups, that's right. Sorry. Yes.
I've been thinking about this one again. We've got a technical, collaborative, logistical problem. We just haven't got the solution yet. Whereby what can't happen is headaches. We start having headaches at this point that could become a lot larger later. So having thought about these groups, they probably will happen. I'm not sure how, because who names them? Who owns the website that names them? What about a new group that comes in? Then how do they get access to put their group in? Is it accessed individually by the ones that consent? Do they then sign on to their group, or is it done through another medium? If that other medium is there, then there must be another drop-down box in the votes for them to choose. Well, is that fully inclusive? And what if their name doesn't appear on there yet? Who adds that in the moment when all of these things are very, very awkward, okay, to technically cover inclusively, because GPMS is inclusive. It's not like Canada or America. It's because it's inclusive. There's an awful lot of these, and there may be an awful lot out there that we don't know of that could be missed, and then they've got to be added, and all of these ideas. So yes, there is some technical hurdles. Can it happen? Yes. Will it be probably an affiliate page, so a third-party page, so it's not a GPMS headache? With regards to the administration of GPMS moving forward, it can be done as a third party. We'll see how that works. Again, this is just perspective and collaborative perspective, Renata. It's not, I think it's a great idea. I just don't know how it would work yet.
You know what? Eventually it'll all sort itself out, and you'll be guided divinely, if it's right.
But this is the beauty, right?
If it's in alignment, then you'll be guided, and if it's not, then you won't be. So it's just that's what living from the heart is, and moving through existence from the heart that's what it's all about. But in the meantime, people can sign up individually.
Yes. So what I was going to say was I like to talk about the things that go in my mind, because that way they're out to the universe to be answered. So from the heart, totally. There's what I see as logistic problems. Fix it, and then we can bring it back. Let's say I don't mind people using the word sign. I don't mind people using the word understand. Because it's all based on intention for me. But for a lot of people out there that are in certain sovereign communities that may have learned some stuff about legalese, they won't like the word signature, because it does literally mean fall from nature. Again, with these consents and ideas and accords, so there is no word sign or signature on the site. It's not there. It's a vote. It's an agreement. It's an accord. It's a consent. There is a proclamation on there which proclaims your sovereignty when you agree to consent to GPMS. You are standing in it. There is a sovereign document in there that proclaims your sovereignty. Read it out loud. That is what you are. The inalienable rights are documented in there. We have an outline 12 unalienable rights, inalienable rights, whichever word you wish to use. But that outlines what you are, freedom and all liberty and all of these things, but they are unalienable, cannot be taken off you or given away. That proclamation is in there. And all you say is, yes, I agree, and a consent form. There is no signature. There is an autograph box. And that just literally says, put in it whatever you wish. It could be a love heart. It could be a smiley face, a star, a tree, a dog. It doesn't matter. It's your energetic agreement. So this isn't anything like the old, there's no contracts involved or anything like this. All it is a consent form. So on the website, www.gpms.world, if you wish to have a look, it will get better shortly when the Divine Feminine give it some nurture. I'll make it more aesthetic, but it works as it is. So on there is a consent now button. There's also a divine simplified law. You can see the phases as we've outlined them a year ago, 18 months ago. You can see what it is. We're in phase 1 at the moment, which is collect the voice. That swiftly moves to phase 2, which is proclamation of action, and then phase 3, inception.
Right.
There is a counter on the web page which shows you in real time how many around the world have consented. At any point, this could go viral and will go viral. So you can keep an eye on what it is. There is no fake promises with GPMS. It promises nothing until the people choose it. And when the people choose it, then everything happens. So it's no fake carrot on a stick. Jizara, we're going to give you this at a certain period. When the people choose it, then it happens. There is a contributors form as well. We've got a consent form for the vote. So anybody that wishes to agree, align their accord, can consent. Anybody that feels that they may like to do a little bit more, there's a contributors form on there where they can just put in a little bit more information and join a group or a team, which is aligning around the world through countries, team groups, which are populating organically via each country, because we recognize that every cultural and societal, all cultures and societies will have differences, and who better to look after them than their own people.
Exactly.
So this is what's happening. Thailand being the vanguard at the moment, they're pushing forward with this, and it's a beautiful thing. What's happened in Thailand, paradigm shifted in Thailand, and now they're GPMS. The group forms, yes. Once we get to an idea where we start to see large indigenous groups that may have speakers for the people indigenously granted. So we may find that there's a voice for the South Sea Islanders that can speak on behalf of quite a few South Sea Islanders because they have an indigenous right to do such. Then they can agree for all of their people. These allocations and agreements, this room for that to happen. But if you've got a group of 50 and they're all friends in a bar or something, then no, this is really an individual game. It's really about the individual consent where you say, yes, I would like that. And the same with your family, your children. There's no limit on who can consent. 1 day, 1 minute old child, 1 second old child is just as equal as everybody else. So with 2 billion children on the planet, or whatever that is now, if you ask every single child on the planet, do you want to work for the next 60 years or never have to? Well, there's 2 billion consents before you've even explained what's gone on. So I would suggest the others that don't see this, it's inevitable, it's imminent, it's irrevocable. There is no stopping this. Once the people choose and stand together, there is no government, there is no power on this plane that can stop that. And if we recognize that and realize that with the few that are in power at the moment, what devastation they're causing, when we're all in power, how different that could be in the other way. So
that's been their, sorry, Leah, but I think that's been their greatest fear, is that we all actually wake up and do this. Like, that's their worst nightmare.
It's what we're doing.
In a nutshell, isn't it?
It's what we're doing. And this is the beauty. When you're talking about duality a little bit earlier, when you see the soul differently, what the actual soul is in reality, or less reality than non-reality, then you can see this is just a redress that's going on right now. And actually all of the evil per se is, or not all of it, but a lot of what we perceive as negative has a massive beneficial effect. It's just not in the moment, it comes out afterwards. So this is where you lose that duality, when you see things for what they really are as opposed to what you fear they are.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, I feel a whole other discussion coming.
Bring it on, whatever you like. We can have another one and go into different stuff. But this is the lower time one. This is a bit more than that. This GPMS brings about a flashpoint in humanity. It brings humanity to the lower level of the lower echelon of the fifth dimensional experience.
Right.
There has to be truth and transparency. There has to be freedom and abundance for that level experience, and humanity will choose it themselves. That's the other beauty. So this is everything that was prophesied. Yeah. What all of the old writings talk to this time. Yeah. And actually humanity doing what they're doing now, even if they don't seem to be doing it, humanity will rise up and make the grass green again, take whatever hope he says about these rainbow warriors, right? But it's just humanity themselves.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, as they say, right?
It's perfect.
Yes. So it's time we wrap this up for today. And Lee, I hope we'll have another chance to catch up in the near future as global events unfold and as the true will of the people shows itself and GPMS moves into its next stage of unfoldment. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing your beautiful divine energy with us. It was a great pleasure and honor to speak with you today, and I wish you Godspeed in your most noble and needed endeavors with GPMS.
You're too kind. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And by all means, I'll come back. Well, whenever you want, Renata, we'll come back and have a chat and we can go wherever you feel.
I love it. I love it.
And we'll keep this one to this level, but absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for the way you were, for getting on board, for collaborating with us, for seeing us and finding us, and just that beautiful smile and that divine soul that you have. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much. And for our viewers, I'm your host, Renata Duma. Till next time, thanks for watching Take On Knowing Media. See you in the ethers.